Hello, I'm Dr. Alison Griffiths and I'm a Senior Lecturer in Telecommunications at Staffordshire University. This talk is about how to start your project. It might be an undergraduate, master's, or PhD, or postdoc. An overview of what I'm going to talk about is how to use your time wisely, how you can use Facebook for general communication between supervisor and student, or something similar can be used for sharing information
Dropbox for sharing information between supervisor and student.
A meeting log, so we can focus
the actual meetings
and make the most of the time.
How to start your project proposal, and how to actually start your project. And then we'll end on some general advice based on things that I would like to tell you before you actually start your project so you don't make these mistakes.
What are the difficulties with a project? There's a lack of time. There's a lack of space on the email server, and in the past, students turn up to meetings with USBs and they have to plug it into the computer, open the files, then they walk away, leaving the stick in the staff PC. They lose their work and they lose handwritten notes given that the supervisor makes during their meetings. Okay, so the difficulties are lack of time. I don't really need to, as I've already said this, I don't need to repeat it. Try not to send documents over emails because, as you know, student accounts and staff accounts are not very large. So as soon as you start sending like literature reviews or this and whatever through the email server, we just can't send any emails. That's why we use the Dropbox. And essentially, I'm just justifying why we're using Dropbox. I've had lots of students come in and bring in the USB sticks, plug it into my machine. That all takes time out of your meeting. It's a waste of time. And then also they get up and they go away and they forget it, or they lose the USB stick somewhere else. The other thing is bringing things on pieces of paper. Then, well, I can quite easily write on pieces of paper, but that gets lost. What I tend, because sometimes I'm always in a meeting, I'm always making notes, and the student usually asks to take it. At one point, when I was solely relying on that, I would insist that we scan the piece of paper in and save the piece of paper in Dropbox. Previously, that wasn't a problem because the printer was just outside my door, so we'd have a project meeting and go out and scan it. And it's obviously free for us member staff, but I found out now that students have to actually pay for scanning, which I can't understand because you're not actually...
No, it's free actually. Scanning is free.
Scanning is free. Okay, so remember, scanning is very useful because sometimes, I'm talking general now. Sometimes when you bring some information in, I can look at it on the screen and I can suggest comments digitally, and sometimes you might want to work with, you've printed something out and I write something down. That depends how you prefer working. If you prefer the printing out method, then obviously you've got to pay for the printing. But then if you actually lose that and you haven't scanned it, you've lost my comments. And I've lost my comments. And there's quite often, sometimes, where I'll see a document and I think, I've already changed that, and they haven't changed it. And that's quite infuriating on two levels, really. Okay, so there are ways of doing it, and obviously I used to do it that way, whereas now we use Dropbox, and I open the file and I can make changes and make comments, and we can, I don't know if you've ever used the track changes thing. You can see if I've made any changes and I can make a comment, and then you can open it back on your machine, and then you can either say I accept these changes or I don't accept these changes or whatever. But you can see the changes that I've made. But that's only half the story. That's like a 1D effect. When you bring stuff to me or your project supervisor to read, one of the most important things is to, like at the moment, when you've been reading my comments for Voice and Data, you're reading them after you've written it. You're not actually seeing my reaction when I'm reading. So a lot of the time is when somebody reads something for the first time, they have questions. And it would be great to be able to ask the person, what actually do you mean by this? Or me say, well, when I read that, it makes me think of this. Because it's a skill, writing for someone else to understand what you're thinking. Because you'll find that at first you write. So we use Facebook. The other thing was I was saying, yes, previously I would have a project time and I would be able to stick to that every single week. Now it's not always the case. We're in meetings run over. In this semester, I'm looking over there because I was in a meeting in the library, a validation meeting that I couldn't get out of, and it was running late. So I just put a notification on Facebook saying, I am in a meeting. I will let you know when I come out. So the students were informed. I know you can come with a note on the door and whatever. And it's actually probably not as bad for you guys now because you're living in Stoke, aren't you? Yeah. Whereas if we were in Stafford, it would be a lot more inconvenient. But it's still, I mean, if I can say something, then why not? I'm not promising I will. I usually am there when I say. And if not, I change the meetings. But that's what I tend to do. So the other thing is if people ask for advice, then all of the students can see it. They can. So basically, I've got some screenshots later on. Someone had a general question about, say, their proposal or the literature survey. So it wasn't actually a question about what their project was about. So they asked the question and then I could answer it. But then it didn't mean I had to go and answer it 10 or 15 times to different people. The other thing is Facebook tends to be more encouraging at this than other methods, because I know we tried to use discussion boards in Blackboard. But the trouble with that, pardon?
Nobody checks it in Blackboard.
Nobody checks. But the thing is, with Facebook, it alerts you that you've got a thing.
You get a notification.
Whereas the same, I mean, you'll find it the same, is if you're studying 5 modules, there might be an update on one of the modules, and how do you know? Imagine if you're teaching on a lot more modules, how often am I expected to go in and check the discussion boards? Whereas with the Facebook, if someone's asked a question, I know about it. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm a workaholic, but I have a personal account as well as a work account. So I know that someone's asked a question. So depending on where I am and what I'm doing and how urgent it is, I can put a quick reply maybe. I mean, obviously if you get a reply from a personal account, that's obviously a good thing. Not like a thing that's above and over my job kind of thing. But what I'm saying is if it's a really important issue, then I can respond. Whereas I wouldn't look at, say, my university email when I was on holiday or whatever. But what I'm saying is it's easier to get notified that there's an issue. And also it's easier for me to contact you. But you also have to bear in mind that just by, say, chatting with me, I'm not always available. Even if I'm online, because at the moment I'm probably online all the time, but I might not actually be there, or I might be doing something different. But it's like anything. It's like sending a text message. You might get a response later, but I'll know that you've asked something. So the general advice is if it's a general question that you think everybody will want to know the answer to, post it in there. If it's a specific question that you don't want everyone seeing, then just put it in the message, or use the traditional email system, the student email system. Or if it's something that you don't want other people to know that it's you that's asked the question, and I think that it's useful for everyone, I can post it up, as in it doesn't even have to think that it's a question that's been asked. I can just say some advice or whatever. And the other thing is you can communicate amongst yourselves. None of the students have actually done this so far. But you can do. I'm sure you've already seen this page over and over again. It's just, I just think it's quite nice that it shows people. Well, it shows us graduating. It shows you where you're going to be. Can you recognise a few people? Can you recognise Anas there, and obviously Dr. Patwari and me and Solomon, and who else is? And is Cameron?
Yeah, there's next to Karthik.
I can't see. Yeah, here.
Yeah.
And then Jalil, he taught voice and data whilst I was away on pregnancy. So it's a community with lots of past students and present students. Now, with this page, that only really tends to be, well, me and Anas who post anything on there. Some people like things, and it's just general stuff. Whereas in the group, it's a bit different because more people post, or it's general, it's advice for that group. And I don't really need to tell you about what Facebook is because you already know what it is. Okay. So this is actually the project page, and as you can see here, it's a secret group. So it, as I said, it means that nobody can see it on what you post is completely out there. So these are the groups that I have created, or am a member of, because I haven't created all of them. The project group is the top one, and I intend, I haven't decided. I either have one for every year, or I'll just have one project group and then just put more and more people in it as time goes on. Then it's up to you once you've finished your project whether you stay in or not, because you might actually want to give some people advice, or I don't know, some people might put a question, I'm doing this project, and you might be working, I don't know, in Jaguar or in a telecommunications company, and you might still pop in and give advice, or your company might be looking for some more graduates, and if you think, oh, they're doing this project, it might be worth connecting with them. So it's my intention to just keep adding people, really. At the moment we've got 15 members, and as you can see, well, I don't need to talk about the other groups. I've got a postgrad and an undergrad, and then there's a Facebook for academics, which is like a Staffordshire University one, where we ask questions of how do you do this in Facebook, and somebody will answer. So it's basically the same thing but for the staff. Okay, so here's some examples. What I've done is I've anonymised the student. That's why there's the black marks on there. General questions. So here you've talked about aims and objectives. He's asked me a question. Is this in general for the main project, or is it in particular topics? So I've answered. And then there's another one. Any target word count on the literature review. Now, the other thing to bear in mind is this is for all project students that I supervise, and that actual project student is an undergraduate student. So some of the advice will be to MSc and undergrads are different. So numbers on project proposals and word counts and everything are just slightly different. However, the contents are always the same. Whether you're doing an undergraduate project, which surely you've all already done, a master's project, or even a PhD dissertation, they all take the same format. Even a research paper, a publication, they all have introductions, they all have this, they all have conclusions, they all have all the stuff that comes in the middle, regardless of the level. And this is here just an example of, I was sat in a meeting, and as I've said, usually I scribble down on a piece of paper, general okay, what are the titles, what needs to be included in a proposal? So I'd write it on a piece of paper. So in the past, I'd just go and scan that in. So the student went off to scan it in for me, and I thought, well, actually, why scan it in? I can just quickly type it in. So I actually typed it in on the 28th of October, as you can see, and I actually had that on my screen. So when the other students were coming in, we were talking through the actual post. So it saved a lot of time. Okay. And these are just some more examples. So I suddenly realised that students are not very good at, don't really know what Gantt charts is. Do you know what a Gantt chart is? Yeah. Good. Well, students before didn't, so I just created a simple one and uploaded it. So I said, right, okay, there's a problem, so I'll upload a Gantt chart. Again here, information about literature review. So if you join when you join this group, then you'll see that advice is already there.